You've kept this for months, Vera. Why open it now?
The library door creaked open.
Tomorrow you turned 18. She wanted you to have it on your birthday.
Inside, a black maid sat opposite the boy. Something yellowed lay between them.
And my father, does he know?
We haven't been able to reach him for years.
The boy's hands began to tremble. 11 steps away, a billionaire in a borrowed security jacket held his breath. He wore the uniform because his brother said the woman inside was dangerous. She whispered
He finally
something
knows
else,
the truth.
something no one in this house had spoken of in 18 years. His heart stopped the moment he heard. He couldn't move. It had been a long time since anyone had spoken of this in his presence. By the time she finished, he was on his knees. The plane began its descent over Boston Harbor just after 7 in the evening. Sullivan Hartwell sat in row 2A of the first-class cabin and watched the city he had not slept in for any meaningful stretch of time in 18 years rise up to meet him. On the seatback screen, he had paused a video. Adeline, 5 months pregnant, laughing at someone behind the camera. He had paid a private archivist $12,000 3 years ago to recover the file from a corrupted drive. He had watched it twice. Now, watching it again, he understood why he had stopped. He closed the laptop. He had come home for 3 reasons. Daniel Whitaker had called 3 weeks ago and said, "There's something in the house. I can't tell you over the phone." Daniel did not say things like that. Sullivan had cleared his calendar within 24 hours. The second reason was that Adeline's 18th memorial was in 9 days. He had not visited her grave since the funeral. He had not been able. The third reason was Oliver. His son was about to take the last of his college entrance exams. Then he was going to leave. And Sullivan, who had spoken to his son through a phone screen for 5 to 8 minutes every evening for 18 years, realized one night in London that he had never sat across a dinner table from him as a man. So he was coming home. Daniel met him at Logan. They drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. "Tell me," Sullivan said. Daniel kept his eyes on the road. "Vincent has been flagging one of the housekeepers. Her name's Vera Whitmore. She's been here 4 months. I don't have evidence of anything yet, but the flagging is wrong. He's tagging her like she's a threat. She doesn't behave like one." "Then why call me?" "Because 3 things bother me," Daniel said. Vincent doesn't usually flag staff. Helen Doyle started filing complaints 2 weeks after Vera arrived. And the locked study, Mrs. Hartwell's old room, has been unlocked twice this month at 5 in the morning. Vera was nearby both times. She didn't go in. Someone wanted her to. Sullivan watched the streetlights drag across the windshield. Bait. That's my reading. Who has the key to that study? 3 people. You, Vincent, Marshall. Sullivan didn't answer. The Back Bay townhouse smelled the same. Beeswax polish, old wood, and the cold metal of marble that had not been warmed by anyone for too long. Nora Bradley came around the corner from the kitchen, drying her hands, and when she saw him, she stopped where she stood. "Mr. Hartwell." Her voice was soft. "Welcome home. It's been a long time." She was the first person in the building to look him in the face and recognize him. Oliver came down the staircase a minute later. 18, tall, polite the way a guest is polite. He shook his father's hand before Sullivan could decide whether to embrace him. "Hi, Dad. Good flight?" "It was fine. I have a paper due. I'll see you at dinner." He was up the stairs before Sullivan could answer. At dinner, Vera Whitmore moved between the table and the sideboard without sound. She was perhaps 40, with the kind of stillness that comes from teaching young children for a long time. She did not look at Sullivan once. Oliver, halfway through his soup, said quietly to her, "Did you find the photo I asked about?" "Still looking, Oliver. It's okay." "It's not. I said I'd find it." Sullivan held his spoon and did not ask. Later, alone in his old study, Sullivan opened a drawer he had not opened in 18 years. Inside lay a wooden box, Adeline's. She had used it to hold his letters during the months he traveled. It was empty now, lined with felt, dust along the seam. There was a sticky note pressed to the inside lid in handwriting he recognized. Sully, I'll handle Mom Whitmore's calls. You focus on the work. We'll revisit in a year. The note was yellow with age. 18 years old, maybe more. He had signed Marshall's power of attorney over the estate during the worst week of his life and had never asked what his brother did with it. He held the note in his fingers a long time. Somewhere in the house, a door closed softly. The next morning, Marshall came to the townhouse before breakfast. He brought Vincent with him. They sat across from Sullivan in the office that had been Sullivan's father's, and Marshall slid a manila folder across the desk. Sully, I didn't want you walking into this blind. Sullivan opened the folder. 3 complaints filed by Helen Doyle. A report of unauthorized entry into Adeline's locked study. A timeline of unusual behavior with annotations in Vincent's handwriting. Her name is Vera Whitmore, Marshall said. She's been here 4 months, came through a domestic agency. References were fine, on paper. And off paper? Off paper, she's gotten too close to Oliver. He's 18 in a week. His trust opens at 21. This is the most vulnerable window of his life, Sully. People know that. Predators know that. Vincent nodded once. She lets herself into rooms she shouldn't be in, Vincent said. She arrives before her shift. She stays after. She brings the boy books. She knows his birthday. She knows his mother's name. And how would you know what she knows about his mother? Vincent didn't answer. Marshall did. Helen has heard things. The boy talks to her, Sully. He confides. That's the problem. Sullivan closed the folder. What do you want to do? Terminate her today. Quietly. No severance, no reference. End of week. She's gone. And Oliver? He'll be upset. Then he'll move on. He's 18. They forget. Sullivan looked at his brother for a long moment. Let me think about it. Marshall stood. Sully, don't think too long. She's in this house, right now. That evening, Sullivan was crossing the second-floor landing when he heard Helen's voice rise from the corridor below. He stopped at the railing. Helen was standing over Vera in the staff hallway, clipboard in one hand, the other hand pointed at Vera's apron pocket. Empty it! Right now! May I ask what you're looking for, Ms. Doyle? Don't get smart with me. Empty it! Vera set her apron on the side table, slowly, deliberately. 3 other staff stood pressed against the wall behind Helen. None of them moved. In my pocket are 2 pens, a notepad, a packet of throat lozenges, and a folded letter from my niece. You may inspect them in any order you wish. She lifted out the letter first and set it gently on the table, both hands on the paper. Then the lozenges. Then the notepad. Then the pens. One of the pens was a blue-green Esterbrook fountain pen. Helen seized it. Where did you get this? It was on the floor of the second-floor corridor. I picked it up this morning. I was returning it to Mr. Ashford's office at the end of my shift. Liar. This belonged to Mrs. Hartwell. I know it did, ma'am. Don't you dare! I know it did, Vera said again, her voice level. There's a small dent on the cap from when she dropped it once at her writing desk. I noticed it because I have been looking at her things for 4 months without touching any of them. You are welcome to inspect the dent. Helen went still. I did not enter Mrs. Hartwell's study, Vera said. Not yesterday. Not any day. I have walked past that door more than 100 times. I have never opened it. If someone is telling you otherwise, that person is lying to you. And I think you already know who it is. Behind Helen, one of the housekeepers looked at the floor. It was at that moment Oliver came down the staircase. He had heard the last sentence. He walked past his aunt's clipboard, past his uncle's man, and stopped beside Vera. Whose pen is that, Mr. Ashford? Vincent had appeared at the end of the corridor without anyone noticing him arrive. "That's not the point, Oliver," Helen said quickly. "With respect, ma'am, it looks like the point to me. Mr. Ashford, whose pen is that?" Vincent's mouth opened, closed. Vera turned to him. "I would also like to know, Mr. Ashford, how a pen that has been locked in Mrs. Hartwell's study for 18 years ended up on the corridor floor for me to find." The silence that followed was the kind that has a temperature. Helen recovered first. "We'll continue this conversation in my office, Ms. Whitmore?" "We will continue it in front of the household, Ms. Doyle. I am happy to repeat every word I have just said in front of Mr. Hartwell." She had not yet noticed that Mr. Hartwell was already watching. From the top of the stairs, Sullivan turned and walked back to his office. He did not speak. He did not move quickly. He shut the door behind him, walked to his desk, and picked up the phone. "Daniel," he said, "I need a uniform, a guard's uniform. Tonight." Daniel arrived at the back service entrance an hour before midnight. He carried a black duffel bag. Inside was a charcoal gray security jacket, dark pants, a black cap, and a name tag that read S. Garrison. "Borrowed it from a firm I trust," Daniel said. "They think one of their men is on a private detail. He's actually on paid leave for the next 3 weeks. No one will ask." Sullivan held the jacket in his hands. It was heavier than he expected. "The night crew started 6 months ago," Daniel said. "They rotate on a 2-year contract. None of them have ever met you. They've never seen a photograph. Vincent oversees scheduling. Helen doesn't speak to security staff at all." "And the day staff?" "You've been gone 18 years, Mr. Hartwell. You've been here, what, 4 nights in 18 years? 5? They know your signature. They don't know your face. Nora knows. I know." "That's it." Sullivan set the jacket on the desk. "What about my brother?" "Marshall hasn't done a midnight walkthrough of this house in over a decade. He has his own people for that. He won't be looking at a guard." "And Oliver?" Daniel hesitated. "Oliver is the risk. He'll be near you. He's an observant kid, but he's also a kid who's grown up seeing his father through a screen for 5 minutes a night. He won't look at a guard's face and see his father. He'll see a guard." Sullivan didn't speak for a long moment. "I came home to be his father," he said. "I know. And now I'm going to spend 3 weeks lying to him." "You're going to spend 3 weeks finding out what's been done to him," Daniel said. "There's a difference. Whatever this is, Mr. Hartwell, it's older than 4 months. If you confront Vincent right now, evidence walks out the back door before sunrise. You'll never know what was taken from your son. Or from you." Sullivan looked up. "What do you mean? From me?" "I don't know yet, but I've been watching this house for a long time. The pattern is too clean for it to only be about her." In the kitchen, Nora was waiting with a thermos of coffee. She did not ask why. She poured a cup and pushed it across the counter. "Mr. Hartwell," her voice was low, "whatever you find, be ready for it to be older than you think. I know. Some things in this house have been wrong since the year your wife died. I didn't know it then. I know it now. I would have told you if you had ever come home long enough to ask." He took the coffee in both hands. "Watch who speaks loudly," she said. "Then watch who steps closer to your son when he's afraid. They are usually different people." Sullivan met her eyes. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because for the first time in 18 years, you asked." In a small guest bathroom on the 3rd floor, Sullivan stood in front of a mirror in a uniform that was not his. He had not worn anything off the rack since law school. The shoulders fit. The collar did not. He pulled the cap low across his brow. He practiced his face in the mirror. The man looking back at him was not a billionaire. He was a tired man working a night shift. He was 48 years old, and for the first time in 2 decades, no one in his own house knew where he was. He buttoned the jacket. He picked up the radio Daniel had clipped to the belt. He walked down the back service stairs and into the staff corridor at exactly 12:01 in the morning, and the front gate security log accepted the swipe of S. Garrison without complaint. The man who had come home to be a father had vanished. In his place was a stranger named Sam. The keypad on the side gate beeped at 5:15 in the morning, and Vera Whitmore let herself in without using her swipe card. Sam Garrison, on the perimeter monitor in the guard booth, made a note. Day 1, 5:15 a.m. No log entry. Direct to kitchen. He did not write the next line down, but he thought it. She does not want to be on the books for the hour she actually starts. In the kitchen, she pulled a wooden spoon from the drawer Adeline used to keep her measuring cups in. She set a small saucepan on the burner. She poured oats, a half spoon of honey, no sugar. From a glass jar, she took a pinch of cinnamon between her thumb and forefinger and let it fall over the pot. 18 years ago, Adeline had made oatmeal for Sullivan in this kitchen with exactly that pinch. No measuring spoon, just the fingers. He had teased her about it on a Sunday morning the spring she had told him she was pregnant. Sam Garrison stood at the staff corridor doorway and watched a stranger cook his wife's recipe. He made a second note. He did not write down what it cost him. At 6:30, she carried a small mug up to the second floor and knocked on Oliver's door. The boy was already awake, already dressed, a textbook open on his desk. Vera set the mug down without speaking. She also slid a paperback across the wood. Roxbury, a neighborhood history. Thank you, Oliver said. I'll return it Saturday. No rush. There is, actually. I think I'm going to need to know more before next week. She paused at the door. Why next week? You'll see. She nodded and left. In the corridor, the guard called Sam stepped back into a doorway and let her pass without looking up. His chest was tight. I think I'm going to need to know more before next week. He did not yet understand what his son meant. By noon, Sam was at the perimeter desk pretending to fill out a duty log. Vincent Ashford crossed the back office in his shirt sleeves, sat down at his computer and pulled up the paper timesheet for the housekeeping staff. He scrolled. He typed. He clicked save. Then he reached into a drawer, pulled out a yellow legal pad and wrote in his own hand, Whitmore, V. Start time today, 7 a.m. Sam, behind his computer screen, watched the entry change in real time. 5:15 became 7. 1 hour and 45 minutes of unpaid labor on a Tuesday. He did not move. He did not speak. He took a slow breath and let his pen rest against the page of his own duty log. That is theft, he thought. Plain, documented, mine to prove. That afternoon, Helen Doyle stopped Vera in the rear hallway. Her clipboard was out again. Cellar inventory, she said. All 8 racks, bottle by bottle reconciliation. I need it on my desk by morning. My shift ends at 4, Ms. Doyle. Then I'd suggest you start now. Vera looked at her for a long moment. Yes, ma'am. She did not argue. She did not file a complaint. She walked to the cellar with a notepad and a flashlight, and she stayed in that cellar until 8:10 at night. Sam Garrison passed the cellar door twice on patrol and heard her counting under her breath, the soft scrape of pencil on paper, the rustle of a sleeve against a wine rack. He did not enter. Later that evening in the kitchen, he lingered near Nora at the prep counter. She sends most of her wages to her sister in Roxbury, Nora said quietly, not looking up. Twin boys. Their mother is raising them alone. I asked her once why she doesn't take a higher-paying job. She said she's where she's supposed to be. That's all she would say. Sam, in the guard's coat, did not answer. He folded a dish towel slowly. Where she's supposed to be. He filed the phrase away. On the third night, the library light was on at 11 o'clock. He saw it from the corridor on his patrol round. The door was not closed all the way. He approached the way a guard approaches anything irregular at that hour, the radio at his belt, his shoes quiet on the runner. He could hear them before he reached the door. "You've kept this for months, Vera. Why open it now?" The boy's voice, Oliver's, low, careful. Sam stopped where the light from the library spilled out across the corridor runner, 10 feet short of the threshold. "Tomorrow you turn 18. She wanted you to have it on your birthday." Vera's voice, steady the way she had sounded in the hallway with Helen. "And my father? Does he know?" A long pause. "We haven't been able to reach him for years." A longer pause. "Your mother wrote in 2 stretches, Oliver. The first when she was carrying you. She had 2 months left of the pregnancy and she had just found out about the cancer. She wrote whenever she could. She wanted you to have something. She wanted your father to have something. She was very afraid of leaving without leaving words." "And after?" "After you were born, she lived 9 more months. She kept writing. Some days she could only manage a sentence. Some days she finished 2 letters. She did all of this between feedings, between treatments, between visits with your grandmother. She wanted to leave you one for every birthday, and your father one for every year she wished they could have grown old together." "How many?" 30 for you, 50 for him." The boy made a sound that was not quite a sob. "She wanted to give them to your father herself, but he was always traveling. London, Tokyo, Hong Kong. She kept waiting for a long enough window. The window never came. In the last weeks, she gave the whole stack to her mother, to your grandmother, Lillian. Lillian promised her she would deliver them, hand to hand, to both of you." "And did she?" "She tried." In the corridor, Sam Garrison stopped breathing. "For 18 years, Oliver, your grandmother called this house. She came to the gate. She sent her attorney, a woman named Patricia Whitmore, more times than I can count. 43 formal contacts. Every one of them was turned away at the gate. Not one ever reached your father." The boy's voice cracked. "Who turned them away?" "I will let your father tell you that himself when the time is right. It is not my place to name him in this room." "Vera." "Oliver, does he even know these letters exist?" There was a silence longer than any that had come before. "I do not think he does. I think your father has been kept from this for almost as long as you have. Maybe longer." In the corridor, Sullivan Hartwell put one hand on the wall. He had been a father at a distance for 18 years. He had been a husband for 2 before that. He had thought, on the plane home from London, that the worst thing he had to atone for was 18 years of absence. He understood now that he had not been absent. He had been removed. His wife had written to him, 50 letters, one for every year she had wished they could have grown old together, to the year he turned 80, and his own brother had stood at the gate and turned them all away. He did not remember walking. When he came back to himself, he was at the dark end of the second-floor corridor, his shoulder against the cold of a window frame, one knee on the carpet. Not for drama, because his legs had stopped holding him. Behind him, in the library, Vera Whitmore was still speaking quietly to his son. "Your mother wrote one more thing in the first letter, Oliver. She wrote that she loved you. She wrote it 3 times. She said if you only ever read one of these letters in your whole life, you would have read what mattered most." Oliver did not answer with words. Sullivan stayed on his knee at the window until the library light went out. The next morning at 5:40, he watched from a side doorway as Vera Whitmore walked the second-floor corridor and stopped, the way she had every morning, in front of Adeline's locked study. She tried the handle. The handle did not move. She pressed her palm flat against the wood for 2 seconds, the way one says goodnight to a sleeping child without waking them. Then she walked on. This morning, the door was locked. On 3 other mornings this month, according to Daniel's logs, it had been unlocked at exactly this hour. Vera had never gone in. Whoever had been opening it had wanted her to be caught crossing a threshold she had refused to cross. Sullivan, in the guard's coat, leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. He was going to find out who. He already knew what answer he was afraid of. At 2 in the morning, Sullivan and Daniel sat side by side in the small server room behind the guard booth. The blue glow of the monitor made the room look colder than it was. Daniel had pulled the digital gate logs for the past 4 months. Sullivan had Vincent's paper timesheets spread across the desk. They went row by row. Vera Whitmore. Entry 5:15 a.m. Paper log 7 a.m. Entry 5:12 a.m. Paper log 7 a.m. Entry 5:18 a.m. Paper log 7 a.m. Daniel tore a sheet off his yellow pad and slid it across. 38 hours, 4 months. Vera, Tobias Reed, Rosa Delgado. Vincent only steals from the staff who don't push back. Sullivan read the number twice. 38 hours. He had spent more than that on a single client call last quarter. That's the floor, he said. Floor, Daniel agreed. Wait for the rest. Next was Helen's complaint file. 3 formal complaints against Vera, each signed by Helen, each stamped unfounded. None ever escalated. For ammunition, Daniel said. 3 is the magic number in employment law. She knew exactly what she was doing. Then Daniel turned the monitor. He played a clip from the motion-activated audio outside Adeline's study. The insurance company had installed the sensor the year Adeline died, 3 weeks ago. 5:30 in the morning. A key turning. The soft click of a doorstop being kicked into place to hold the door ajar. Footsteps, walking away. 2 minutes later, Vera's shoes on the runner. A pause. The scrape of the doorstop being kicked out, the door pulling closed, her footsteps continuing past. Daniel cued the 3rd clip. Just before the male footsteps walked away, a low murmur into a phone. It said, "If she walks in, we have her. If she doesn't, we say she did anyway." Vincent's voice. Sullivan did not move. "There's more," Daniel said. He slid a manila folder across the desk. Inside was the gate log audit Daniel had quietly run over the past 3 weeks. Sullivan read down the column. Patricia Whitmore, attorney for Lillian Whitmore. 43 formal contacts. Earliest, 16 years ago. Latest, 93 days ago. Every contact bore the same routing code. Hold. Brief estate manager. Do not forward to Mr. Hartwell. Every authorization signature was the same 2 initials. M. H. Sullivan stared at his own brother's handwriting. "There's a logbook," Daniel said. He set a leather-bound book on the desk. It was Vincent's hand. 16 years of weekly entries. Patricia Whitmore called. Held. M. Briefed. Letter from Roxbury. Return address. Held. M. Briefed. At the front of the logbook, taped to the inside cover, was a yellow sticky note. Marshall's handwriting. "Sully needs to focus on the firm. Mom Whitmore is grief talking. We'll revisit in a year. Year 1. He said 1 year, Sullivan said. He said 1 year, Daniel repeated. It has been 18. The last item in the folder was Lillian Whitmore's letter to her attorney, dated 93 days before her death. Daniel had retrieved it that afternoon on Sullivan's authority. "Patricia, my son-in-law will not answer me. Adeline wrote 80 letters before she died, 30 for our grandson, 50 for his father. I have kept them sealed for 18 years. I am running out of time. My great-niece Vera will find a way. The father is being kept from this. I do not know how much longer he himself has." Sullivan put the letter down on top of the logbook. For a long time, he did not speak. He had been a coward, and his brother had built an empire out of that cowardice. Daniel, after a silence, asked gently, "What do you want to do?" Sullivan looked at the sticky note one more time, then at Marshall's initials repeated in column after column, year after year. "I want them in the same room," he said. "All three. Tomorrow afternoon. Helen, Vincent, my brother. Tell them it's a household review. And Vera? Ask her if she will come, not as staff, as a guest. Tell her she does not have to. Tell her if she comes, she will be in the room when my brother is asked to account for what he did to her grandmother." Daniel nodded. "And Oliver, tell my son the truth. Tell him there is a meeting tomorrow at 3. Tell him he is 18. Tell him he can decide for himself whether to be there." Daniel stood. At the door he paused. "Mr. Hartwell, for what it's worth?" Sullivan looked up. "You came home." He left Sullivan alone with the logbook, the letter, and a sticky note that had been waiting for him for 18 years. At 3 o'clock the next afternoon, the formal dining room of the Hartwell townhouse held 7 chairs. Marshall sat at the head. He had arrived 10 minutes early and chosen the seat himself. Vincent sat at his right. Helen sat across with her clipboard upright in her lap. Vera Whitmore sat at the foot of the table, hands folded. Oliver sat 2 seats away from her on the long side. He had chosen that chair himself. A guard in a charcoal gray jacket stood by the door. Vincent had glanced at him twice and dismissed him. Helen had not looked at him at all. "Where is Sully?" Marshall said. "We said 3. "He'll be here," Daniel answered from the wall. Helen turned. "Mr. Ashford and I have already prepared the termination paperwork. We are only waiting on a signature." "Then please continue waiting, Ms. Doyle." The voice came from the door. The guard had stepped into the center of the room. He removed his cap and set it on the sideboard beside a vase of lilies. Vincent's hand went flat on the table. Helen rose half out of her chair and sat back down. Marshall did not move. His face emptied of color. "Sully." "Sit down, Marshall." Sullivan walked the length of the room and lowered himself into the chair opposite his brother. He set a leather portfolio on the wood. "Thank you for coming." He opened the portfolio. "Let us begin with payroll." He laid down the first sheet. 38 hours of falsified entries across 4 months. Vera, Tobias Reed, Rosa Delgado. Vincent's jaw moved. "Sir, the timekeeping software." "The software is fine, Vincent. Your handwriting is not. There may have been a clerical—" "Stop." Sullivan laid down the second sheet. Helen's 3 complaints, all signed, all stamped unfounded by outside HR. 3 is the magic number in employment law, Ms. Doyle. I assume you knew that when you filed them. Helen's face went white. Sullivan turned the laptop screen and pressed play. The corridor audio filled the room, the key turning, the doorstop, then low and clear. "It's set. If she walks in, we have her. If she doesn't, we say she did anyway." Vincent closed his eyes. Oliver said quietly, "That's a setup, Mr. Ashford. You set her up 3 times. Sullivan turned to his brother, Marshall. 43 formal contacts from Patricia Whitmore, attorney for Lillian Whitmore. Earliest, 16 years ago. Latest, 93 days ago. Every one turned away. Every one authorized by you. He laid down the audit page. He laid down the logbook. He opened the cover and turned it so Marshall could read his own sticky note. Sully needs to focus on the firm. Mom Whitmore is grief-talking. We'll revisit in a year. Year 1. You wrote that. I wrote that. And you never revisited. Sully, the first year, you couldn't walk into Adeline's study. You were running the firm from a hotel room in London because you could not be in this house. I was protecting you. I held the calls, just for a year. And the other 17? It became habit. It became how things were. Habit. For 18 years. While my son grew up without a grandmother. While my wife's mother died waiting for me to call her back. Marshall did not answer. Oliver did. Uncle Marshall? Marshall flinched. I asked you about my grandmother every year since I was 9. You told me she didn't want to know me. Was that true? Marshall closed his eyes. Look at me when you answer. Marshall looked, briefly. Then his eyes slid past the boy to the wall. That was the answer. Sullivan turned to Vera. He placed the blue-green fountain pen on the table. This Whitmore. Where did this come from? Vera took a slow breath. It belonged to your wife. My great-aunt Lillian gave it to me 3 months before she died, with a sealed packet. My great-aunt raised me after my mother died. She tried for 18 years to reach you. When she understood she would not live long enough to try again, she asked me to find a way. I applied for a position through a domestic agency. I used my real name. Mrs. Hartwell signed her official documents, Hartwell, not Whitmore. The name on my resume meant nothing to anyone in this house who had not met us face to face. I told no lies. I walked through a door no one had thought to close. She stood. She walked to the head of the table and placed a leather-bound bundle in front of Sullivan. Blue string. This is yours, Mr. Hartwell. Your wife wrote 50 letters to you. My great-aunt kept them sealed for 18 years. She told me, if he ever comes home, make sure he receives them, even if he does not yet know to ask. Sullivan's hand reached out, stopped just above the leather. He did not yet touch it. Oliver said quietly, Dad, there's a chair next to me. Sullivan stood up from his brother's table and walked to the chair beside his son. By noon the next day, Vincent Ashford's key card had been deactivated. He cleared his office in the presence of 2 outside attorneys. He signed a written acknowledgement that the wage theft case was being referred to the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. He left through the back service entrance the way Vera had been forced to leave hers, every night for 4 months. He did not look back. Helen Doyle's termination was filed an hour later. The false complaint record went to outside HR counsel. No severance, no reference. Marshall remained on the Hartwell Capital Board. He was removed from estate authority, from all access to Sullivan's personal correspondence, and from any role connected to family matters. The independent oversight chair would begin reviewing his decisions retroactively. He was required to write personal apology letters to Vera Whitmore, to Denise Whitmore Blake, to the Whitmore family lawyer Patricia Whitmore, to Oliver, and to Sullivan. He was told the letters would be read. He was not told when. That afternoon, Sullivan stood in front of the remaining household staff and read the new charter aloud. Digital, timekeeping only. Paper logs eliminated. A staff council of 2 line worker seats. All correspondence to the residents handled by a registered family secretary, never the estate manager. An outside ombudsperson for complaints. Back pay calculated for every affected staff member with handwritten apologies from Sullivan himself. Tobias Reed, when his envelope was placed in his hand, opened it slowly. He read the letter. He did not speak for a long moment. Then he said, "Thank you for hearing the quiet people." Sullivan held his hand. That evening, Sullivan asked Vera if she would walk with him to the 2nd floor. They stopped together in front of the closed door of Adeline's study. Sullivan slid a brass key into the lock for the first time in 18 years. The door swung in on dust and silence. Her writing desk was exactly where she had left it. Her chair, the photograph on the mantel of Adeline at 26, holding a small wooden box that had been a wedding gift from her mother. The same wooden box now sat empty in Sullivan's office on the floor below. Sullivan and Oliver carried Adeline's empty letterbox up the stairs together that night and set it in the center of her writing desk. Vera placed Oliver's bundle inside it, green string. Then she placed Sullivan's bundle beside it, blue string. The Esterbrook pen went into the small velvet tray Adeline had used for it. The empty box was no longer empty. Vera turned to Sullivan. "Mr. Hartwell, I would like to be clear about something. I will not be the person who hands you your 50 letters. Your wife numbered them. She wanted you to read them in order, in this room, at your own pace. That is between you and her. My role with you ends here. My role with your son begins. Sullivan looked at her for a long moment. Thank you. There is one other matter. If you would offer me a household director position, I would decline it. I would, however, accept the role of family liaison with 3 conditions. Name them. I am family by blood, Mr. Hartwell. I am not and will not be a substitute for Oliver's mother. The Hartwell Foundation establishes an Adeline Whitmore Hartwell Fund for first-generation college students in perpetuity. My great-aunt always said your wife was the first of our family to graduate from a 4-year program. The fund honors that. And Oliver spends 1 weekend each month in Roxbury with my sister Denise, her twin sons, and our great-aunt Beverly. No supervision. Family accepted. All 3. Vera nodded once and stepped back. Oliver sat down in his mother's chair. He looked up at Vera. Will you read the first one with us? Vera looked at Sullivan. Sullivan nodded. She untied the green string. She opened the topmost envelope. The paper inside was thin, almost translucent. The ink was a color of blue Sullivan recognized immediately. He had bought Adeline that ink for her 30th birthday. Vera read in a quiet voice. My darling Oliver, I am writing in my 7th month. The doctors are cautious, so I am writing while I can. If you are reading this, then you have survived your 1st birthday, and I have not. I want you to know 3 things. I will write them in every letter because if you only ever read one, you will have read what matters most. You were wanted before you were born. You have a grandmother on my side who would have loved you out loud, and a family in a neighborhood called Roxbury, whose walls have your name on them. I love you. I love you. I love you. Adeline. Oliver, who had held himself together for 2 days now, finally broke. Sullivan reached across the desk and took his son's hand. Dad, I'm here. Dad, stay. I'm here, son. I'm here. That night, after Oliver had gone to bed, Sullivan returned to the study alone. He sat in Adeline's chair. He cut the blue string on his own bundle. The first envelope was marked, For Sullivan, Year 1. He did not see all of the letter. He read it twice, slowly. He held it in his lap for a long time. The closing line he could not stop returning to was the one he would carry for the rest of his life. If you are reading this in our son's 1st year, you are surviving the worst year of your life. I am sorry I am not there to survive it with you. I have written you 49 more. Read them at your own pace. Skip none. I am still here, in these. Don't run. Yours always, Adeline. He read it a 3rd time. He did not run. He stayed in her chair until dawn. Sunday morning, 3 weeks after the family meeting, Nora Bradley stood at the kitchen counter with her sleeves rolled up and a wooden spoon in her hand. She was making cinnamon oatmeal. Sullivan sat at the counter on a stool he had not used in 18 years. He watched her drop the pinch of cinnamon between her thumb and forefinger, the way Adeline had taught her in the 1st year of his marriage. Why didn't you ever tell me you made it this way? I was waiting, Mr. Hartwell. For what? For you to ask. She slid the bowl across the counter. He ate without speaking. When he was done, he set the spoon down and looked up at her. Nora. Yes, Mr. Hartwell. Effective Monday morning, you are the director of household operations. The raise will be retroactive to the year my wife died. We will calculate the back pay this week. Nora did not cry. She set her own spoon down very carefully and pressed the heel of her hand against her eye. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nora. That same week, Tobias Reed enrolled in an English language program at a community college in Cambridge. The Hartwell Foundation covered his tuition. He wrote Sullivan a thank you note in careful new handwriting, one sentence long, and Sullivan kept it folded in his desk drawer. Rosa Delgado was moved from rotating shifts to fixed hours. Her 8-year-old son could now count on her being home by 6 every evening. The first night of the new schedule, Rosa was 40 minutes late getting out the door because her son refused to let go of her hand at the kitchen table. She did not mind. On Saturday, Oliver drove himself to Roxbury for the first time. Vera's sister Denise opened the door of a tall, narrow row house on a tree-lined street. Jamal and Malcolm, both 15, both already taller than Oliver expected, pulled him into the kitchen by the elbows before he could finish saying hello. Great Aunt Beverly was waiting at the dining room table with 3 photo albums open in front of her. She turned the first album toward Oliver. Your mother, 6 years old, school uniform, first day of 2nd grade. Oliver leaned in. Your mother, 12, science fair, 2nd place. She was furious. Oliver smiled. Your mother, 18, holding me when I was a baby. Beverly closed the album gently and reached for Oliver's hand. Your mother held me first. Now I get to hold her son. Oliver stayed the whole weekend. He slept in a guest room that had been Adeline's childhood room. He ate at a table with 4 generations of family. He helped Malcolm beat Jamal at a game of cards. On Sunday evening, he called Sullivan from the front porch. Dad, you have to meet them. I will. Soon. Soon. 2 days later, Oliver sent Sullivan the draft of his college application essay. The prompt was, a person who taught you something about family. The essay was about Vera Whitmore. It described her not as a mother substitute. It described her as a woman who had walked through a door no one had thought to close. It described what 18 years of silence does to a child and what a single, careful, unhurried conversation can begin to heal. It did not mention Marshall by name. It did not need to. Sullivan read the essay twice. He did not change a word. He started a routine. Every Friday evening after dinner, he went up to Adeline's study, sat in her chair, and cut the next envelope from the blue bundle. He read them in order, the way she had asked. Some were tender, some were angry. Some were letters she had written on hard days, and she had warned him in letter 1 that some would be. He held letter 7 in his lap and felt something pressed flat between the pages. He turned the paper carefully. It was a dried flower, brown with age, the color long faded, a bougainvillea blossom from their honeymoon in Lisbon. He smiled, for the first time in the room. Then he wept, quietly, and let himself. That week, a registered envelope arrived at the townhouse from Marshall, the required letter of apology to the Whitmore family. Sullivan opened it first before Vera. He read it twice. Then he sealed it again, wrote for Vera when she's ready on the front, and put it in a drawer. A month later, a competing estate on Beacon Hill called the Hartwell residence to ask for a reference on Helen Doyle. Nora took the call. She read out the labor board record number and waited. The estate did not hire her. Nora hung up the phone, smoothed her apron, and went back to checking the dinner roast. She did not gloat. She did not need to. Late August. Move-in day at the university. Sullivan drove Oliver up the New England coast in the early light, the trunk loaded with boxes and a single-framed photograph wrapped in brown paper between their seats. They unloaded together at the curb of the residence hall. Sullivan helped his son carry the heavier crate up 2 flights of stairs. In Oliver's backpack were 3 things he would not let anyone else carry. A blue-green Esterbrook fountain pen, letter number 3 from his mother, and the framed photograph from the family wall in Roxbury. Adeline at 18, the same age Oliver was now. Sullivan helped him hang the photograph above the desk. Oliver hugged him. The hug lasted longer than either of them expected. On the drive back to Boston, Sullivan called Nora. I'm coming home. I know, Mr. Hartwell. The room is ready. Not Manhattan. Home. I'll be there for dinner. It was the first time he had called Boston home in 18 years. He returned to the townhouse alone that evening. He walked the second-floor hallway. He passed Adeline's study. The door was open. He walked in. The blue bundle on her desk was slightly thinner now. 5 envelopes read. 45 to go. He sat down in her chair, picked up letter 6, and began to read. Was there someone in your family kept from you, or someone you were kept from? Say their name in the comments. That's all. Just a name.
The story is over, but one thing has been stuck in my head. We usually think the people who hurt us most are our enemies, strangers, outsiders, but that's not true. The person who can hurt you the deepest is always the one you trust the most, because only they get slow enough to do it. And here's the scary part. They don't have to do anything dramatic. They just have to keep something from you long enough. That's it. A phone call that never gets through, a letter that never gets delivered, a casual, I will handle it, don't worry about it. It sounds kind, but sometimes kindness in this skill is how someone quietly steals years of your life. And you don't even know it's gone. I think we all have somebody like this, the one who has always got your back, who handles things so you don't have to. We're grateful. We trust them, but every now and then it's worth asking, are they helping me or making decisions for me? There's a thin line, and people cross it without you noticing. Here's the thing, some choices nobody gets to make for you, who reaches you, who loves you, who remembers you, that's your call, nobody else. So this week, think back. Is there somebody who just disappeared from your life and you never really knew why? Maybe they didn't walk away. Was there somebody in your family kept from you? Drop their name below, just a name. Hit like, subscribe. See you next time.